Nice and close.
Hello. I know we have to cozy up in the studio of Best Next Steps. This is a little cozy. It's not very professional, but welcome, friends. This is Afternoons with Ems, and it's a time where we talk about how we take our best next steps in all areas of our life. And I invite on people, guests that I know are doing that, have done that. And today we have Nichole Mischke of Nichole Mischke Media and
Nichole Mischke
Uncovered.
Yes.
But on Instagram, it's
Nichole Mischke Uncovered.
Nichole Mischke Uncovered.
Yes.
And then
on Facebook, it's Uncovered with Nichole Mischke.
Okay.
Instagram wouldn't let me say it that way for some reason. So.
I know. It's hard to get it all like lined up.
Yes.
So anyway, okay, so this is my friend Nichole. For those of you that don't know who she is, I'm gonna have her tell a little bit about herself, but I met her through More Than Me, but also I watched her on the news for a while because she used to be on the news. So tell everyone about yourself.
Yeah, so about a year ago, I worked at KHQ, the local NBC station here in Spokane, for about 6 years. Worked on the morning show, loved every bit of it, but there was always kind of something in my heart that felt like there is more for you. This doesn't need to define you, even though it was such a fun job and it's what I went to school for. And at one time it was my dream job. I just kind of always felt like there's something else. And I didn't realize that what really needed to happen is that I had a lot in my life that needed to be uncovered for me to finally get to a point of trusting that voice inside of me that was telling me to do something more. And so, yeah, my story is, I was always comfortable sharing other people's stories, never comfortable sharing my own, which was that I struggled with bulimia for almost 10 years. And it was a total secret. Nobody knew, not even my own husband. And I felt like I was the only person with that issue. I felt like there is something so wrong with me. I believed there was no hope for me. I did not think it was ever anything that I would be able to get help from. I had tried to go to a counselor one time. I went in one day and ended up never going back because I just thought, this is not fixable. I am so beyond control of myself that this is probably going to kill me. And I got to a point where I remember thinking, you know what? I would rather die with a clean name than live having asked for help and people then knowing that I have this issue. And so it kept me quiet for a really long time. I guess it was probably just over 2 years ago that I first started to share about my experience with an eating disorder. And my life has opened up in ways that it's so hard to maybe express really fully the fullness that I feel inside. And it's set me on this path now of I want to live my life uncovering stories of shame, because you think you're protecting yourself when you keep those things inside that make you broken, the things that you think make you unlovable, but you are holding yourself back in so many areas of your life if you don't allow yourself to be loved for your brokenness.
So 100%. So let's dig into this a little bit. How did this start in your life? You must have been. Were you in college?
I was in high school.
You were in high school.
So
okay.
I don't remember I was either 16 or 17. But basically I had grown up kind of a chubby kid. I'm very tall. I'm tall, but I was tall, abnormally tall as a child. Taller than my 4th grade teacher. You know, no one ever believed I was the age that I was. They all thought I was way older. And so finally in high school, I started to kind of come into my own, and that was kind of when guys started to notice me. And I just remember loving the attention that I was finally being noticed by guys. Like, it felt so good. I was drawing a lot of my value from that, like finally feeling seen, I guess. And that kind of just drove me into this obsession with dieting and trying to get as small as possible, because it felt like the smaller I got, the more important I was. And the smaller I got, the more I started being noticed by modeling agencies. And so then I had a modeling agency, a couple of them approached me, and I ended up signing with one in Portland. And again, I remember feeling all these different emotions, like so flattered that they even would think to have me there. But also the particular agency I signed with had told me, you know, we'll sign you, but you still have to lose an inch in your hips and an inch in your waist. And so it was still this feeling of like, I'm still not good enough, you know. And anyway, that's kind of what started it. I was on a very, very restrictive diet, which now I know is kind of the perfect recipe for an eating disorder, because restrictive diets are not a normal, sustainable way to live. They invite guilt and shame into your eating. Okay. And when you invite guilt and shame into your eating, you are setting yourself up for disordered eating patterns, whether it's binge eating, overeating, bulimia, anorexia, I mean, all of that stuff. So basically, the day that I messed up on my restrictive diet that I had been on for months is the first day that I tried to go make myself throw up. And you think you're in control and this is only a one-time thing, but it quickly took over control of my life, and it became something that I was doing more than a dozen times a day. You know, I felt like an addict. I felt like a drug addict.
Well, it probably became the easy way. Like, okay, I mean, easy, but you could, okay, I can just eat and appear normal, like I'm eating. I can feel normal in that way, but I can just get rid of it.
Exactly.
Like I can just, okay, it's gone.
It became like, a way to have a kind of the best of both worlds. But also, I don't think I realized how much I would then start using food as like just to numb out, or if I was sad or something, you know. But yeah, then there was this overwhelming fear of like gaining weight, and I really drew my value as a person and as a female from how attractive I could be. And that is a pretty empty existence.
But not one, I mean, you were not in a bubble there, because I think so many of us, whether it's conditioned in us because from from early on in our life, we're shown this is beauty. This is what beauty looks like. This is what fit looks like. This is what healthy looks like. And I mean, now I feel like things are getting more, supermodels are opening up more. People are opening up more about airbrushing and what that looks like. But when you're a teenage girl looking at the magazines, you don't know that these people have been photoshopped. You don't know that they actually don't look like that in real life.
And I don't think people know how many models and actresses and bodybuilders are struggling with eating disorders.
Yeah.
I hate to make assumptions, but for me to struggle for so long in something that I literally felt like nobody else had this issue, and then I go and I open up about it. I've had people come out of the woodwork and share with me their struggle with an eating disorder as well. I didn't realize I was actually surrounded by women, and many of these women are working in an industry or are doing bodybuilding or fitness competitions or things that require their physical appearance to be at this pedestal that we've risen to, this really unachievable, unnatural level. And that's a really scary place to be, when you not only are striving for that beauty because it's what we think is the only attainable way to be beautiful, but it's dangerous then when you feel like your job or what you're doing depends on you sustaining that. And so many women struggle. And I guess when I say I hate to make assumptions, I have this vision of women eventually being strong enough to come out of the woodwork the more we talk about it. The ones who are modeling and actresses, the ones who we think it just must come so easy for them to look that way. I have this vision of the women who are struggling finally being brave enough to open up and be courageous enough so that we can really just uncover this mask and pull it off for what it is, which is we're abusing ourselves and setting this unattainable standard of beauty that is not natural or the way that it should be. I mean, it's so important now more than ever for women to, it's so hard to do, but just to learn to love the body that you're in. Like, if you have good health, you have everything.
Yes.
You know?
So I think this is so interesting. Last year, I was at the Rachel Hollis's Rise conference in Glendale, and she did a thing called, I think it's called Stand Up for Your Sister. And so there was a sheet of paper, and you checked all these things, like, have you ever been raped? Have you ever been sexually abused? Have you ever used prescription drugs? Have you ever used street drugs? Like, there was this whole list of like crazy things. Well, not crazy. There was this whole list of things that women struggle with, everything like from pornography to, it was just overeating, like whatever. And at the very bottom, she says, it said, and you were supposed to check it, and it said, do you hate your body and the way that you look? And so then we passed our sheets all around. You filled yours up, and then you passed it like they went over and back and all through the theater. So you didn't know who ended up with yours, and you didn't put your name on it. But as she read down, if your sheet had a check mark by it for that thing that she read, then you stood up, and almost 100% of the room stood up for, I hate the way I look, I hate my body. And to me, that was so, that was just so sad to me, that a room full of beautiful, strong women who are at a growth conference, that so many of them hated the way that they looked. And it was funny because I have struggled, I went through a season where I gained a lot of weight after my daughter, and I have worked hard to get it off, and I was in the process of losing that weight. But I don't know if, I haven't been dissatisfied with the way I look, but I think maybe just being someone who's overcome so much childhood trauma and so much physical trauma because I have health issues, I feel so proud of this body that's able to still stand, function under pretty serious surgeries and all the things I've walked through. That was one thing on that thing that I didn't check, but then but mine was checked, so I stood up and I looked around the room, and it just broke my heart that so many women, hate is a strong word,
right?
To hate the way that we look, and where is the disconnect there? Why do we hate ourselves? Why do we hate the way that we're put together? If God says we're fearfully and wonderfully made, if we are made in his image, the creator of the universe said, you're beautiful, I created you this way. And then we're telling ourselves a devastating story every day when we look in the mirror. Yeah.
It is a really hard thing because I think our culture our society does, and reinforce this idea that, and there is a thin bias. If you are a thin, beautiful, attractive female, unfortunately, our society rewards that in a lot of ways.
100%.
With the jobs that you get or the opportunities that come, and so it's very hard, I think, to instill, especially as I'm raising a daughter now, how do I instill a value beyond the physical form that we are? And the only thing that I've come to, I've only been really able to understand, I tell people, I used to think I understood even just the idea that God made me, that I was a daughter of God. Yeah. I used to think I understood that, and I don't think I had a clue. I used to think I loved the song Amazing Grace. Now it makes me bawl my eyes out, because it's oh my God, to have grace after you've been so broken, it makes me want to cry. So when it comes to finding our value, what I've discovered is we all need to recognize that the fact that we are here living and breathing is the biggest gift we could possibly receive. This sounds so geeky, but do you understand how many other possible siblings could have been sitting here in your place? But it was that moment, that night, that your parents did what they did, that brought that sperm and that egg together, and now you're here. It could have been anybody, but it's you. Right. You won the lottery by getting to be here, and your only job is to be the most incredible version of you. And when we get our value, when we don't understand that value, that you have gifts and talents and experiences and thoughts that nobody else will ever have or has ever had. Your job is just to be you. When we can finally grasp that, I feel the superficial stuff all of a sudden doesn't mean that much anymore, because we recognize the gift of getting to be breathing and living here today, and we recognize the opportunity we have to contribute to something so much bigger than ourselves. And I think that's what I woke up to. What knocked me out of my eating disorder, it's not a normal thing. I thought that I was not dying. I thought I had cancer. I had gotten mouth sores in my mouth. I was always afraid that I was causing permanent damage to my body. And
which eventually you
do.
You really,
a lot of people do.
A lot of people, esophageal
esophageal cancer,
like all
or
sorts, and just the erosion of the stomach acid on you, like so many things. I mean, eventually,
just even not having nutrition. I mean, there was
Yeah.
points where I was trying to get rid of anything I put in my body, and my hair was falling out. I had horrible acne.
and I
was having
your
heart
teeth can fall out.
problems.
Like there's lots of damage to your like dental. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that your body like woke you up.
Yeah.
So that is what.
But that's what woke me up. It was like a fear of death. Like, this life is so impermanent. Like you said, we're not promised tomorrow, right? So I had this moment. I was literally like, cancer is here. I am dying, and I deserve it.
I did this to myself.
I did this to myself. But it was also the taste of like, the taste of death that like woke me up, and I was like, what am I living for? Like, the purpose of my life, like I'm pouring all of this energy, my precious energy that I could be spending doing something so much bigger than me. Like, I'm wasting it trying to look perfect, because and you know what, we're all gonna get old and saggy and wrinkly, so like
you can't fight gravity.
You
I mean, you
can't.
can like surgically have some things helped, but eventually gravity takes over. Now, were you a mom at this point too?
I was, yeah.
So how were you able to?
Well, that's what I was actually wrong. I was pregnant. That's why I had the mouth sores.
Okay.
Which
So
I
you
found
were pregnant with your first
I was
child.
with my second.
Oh, so you walked through. Did you put a pause on it while you were pregnant with your first?
I wish I could say no to the fullest, but I mean,
It was such a
not.
habit.
It was not as nearly as all consuming, but absolutely, I was still in the mix of it while I was pregnant with my daughter. Everyone thought I lost the weight so fast with my daughter, and it's like, well, yeah, it's because I was breastfeeding and bulimic at the same time.
Okay. So and you say that you were married and your husband did not know how. Mm-hmm. So you were sneaky. You were really good.
That's why I say I felt like a drug addict.
Yeah. Okay. How did you hide that?
I mean,
you must have been a very quiet thrower-upper. Because
that's what
like when I throw up, everyone knows. In the household, when there's vomiting going on, and I had hyperemesis with both of my children when I was pregnant. If you don't know, hyperemesis is uncontrollable vomiting when you're pregnant, and it doesn't stop. I threw up till those babies came out of my body, and I never got good at it. I never got good at like not making, like, it was so loud. It was gross. So you must have I mean, okay, give me a little detail.
Well, and it's funny because sometimes I hate sharing the details just because I know that maybe someone watching is struggling with this, and I don't want anything that I say to ever be something to encourage someone to go deeper into it or to give people ideas.
Well, I
or
guess,
to think
okay,
that it's easy.
So,
but yeah, I mean, for some people, it becomes easy. It becomes easy, and again, though, the price that you're paying, like the damage that you could be doing to your body is so terrifying. So I was always afraid, like, what if I choke and no one's around, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just,
well, and I know the more that you do it, after walking through hyperemesis now, like, I can just throw up. Because, like, if I get a little twinge of nausea, I just became really, like, I throw up all the time, so then I can just, I have a quick gag reflex now, which I never did before.
Yeah.
Like if I'm in the car too long and get a little motion sickness, I'm like, what? Like it just happened.
Yeah.
So when your body starts, I'm sure was conditioned after this long, like, this comes in, goes back out.
Right. Yeah.
But when you finally told your husband, talk about that conversation.
Yeah.
Like
that. Well, it wasn't a conversation because I couldn't tell him to his face. I was so, you know, I got an opportunity to, the way that I ended up sharing initially, there was one woman who I had met through social media who had opened up about her struggle with an eating disorder, and that was the first person I'd ever seen be open about it in my circle. So I had told her, huge weight lifted off my shoulders, but I just knew still, like, this is a secret, it's keeping me sick, I need to share with more people. And so I got an opportunity to tell a story at a storytelling event in Spokane. The event's called Pivot Spokane. I think everybody needs to go to it. It's amazing. They do it like every 3 months. They pick 8 random people from all different walks of life to share a story, a true story from their life on one word.
Know about this?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Look it up. Pivot Spokane. Go to the next one. You're gonna love it. You cry, you laugh, it's awesome. So anyway, I had been asked to share a story at that event, and the girl who was running it came up and said, "Hey," and this was right around the time when it was eating away at me. Like, I need to share this. And she came up and she said, "Hey, we're doing this storytelling event. The word is secret. Would you like to share?"
Okay, so that's like God was like thunk with
Exactly.
the arrow. Like,
God
here you
was hitting
go,
me on the head.
girl.
Yeah.
It is time
And I go, hell no.
Yeah, I'm sure you
like,
were like...
I was like, no. And why would I have a secret story to share? No, thank you.
I'm on the news. My life's an open book. Like, right? Because when you're in the public, it's like...
Yeah. So I told her no. And she came back to me 3 months later and later told me she had never gone back to the same person after being turned down, but something in her just felt like she should ask me again. And so she said to me, we're doing another storytelling event. This time the word is promise. Would you like to share? Well, the first thing that like popped into my head is that toxic promise you made to yourself to chase after physical perfection. And I brushed it away. I was like, no. Again, I'm not talking about this on a stage in front of 200 people. That's not how I'm going to share this. But I thought, there's got to be a story on promise I could tell. So I said, sure, sign me up. I'll think of a story on promise. Well, I would go home and I literally could think of nothing. It was like my brain was broken. All I could think of is that toxic promise to chase after physical perfection. And I just kept saying like, no, I don't want to talk about that. So I was at the point I was going to cancel. I was going to say, take me off the list. I'm not sharing. I don't have a story to share. Well, literally as I'm thinking I'm going to just cancel, I happened to sit in on an interview with a filmmaker who I highly respect. He was in our studio for the day. His name is Leon Logothetis. He has a documentary about kindness and the importance of being kind. And at this time, he was traveling across the country, going to schools to talk to kids about the importance of being kind, no matter your race, religion, gender, identity, ethnicity. And Stephanie Vigil, some of you may know her. She's amazing. She works at KHQ. She asked him, the last question she asked him, she said, what is the one message you hope kids take away when they hear your story? And again, this is while I'm trying to think of a story on promise. And the only thing I can think of is my struggle, my battle with an eating disorder. I don't want to share that. So she asked him, what's the one message you hope kids take away when they hear your story? And he said, you know what? Sometimes I go to schools and I talk about kindness and there's kids who raise their hand and they say, I don't want to be kind. I don't like kindness. And I look at those kids and I can see the pain in their eyes. And I say to those kids, I say, you know what? That's fine. You don't have to be kind to another person. But promise me that you will share your pain. Share your pain, because if you don't, it will grow and it will fester and it will become something nasty inside of you. And when he said that, promise me that you will share your pain. Yeah. It like punched me in the gut. And I chose to believe in the truth of what I knew those words were telling me. Again, it was like God flatlined me then. It was just like, smack, boom, you're down. Like I knew I need to listen to this intuition, this voice inside of me that is pushing me to share this, instead of believing in the fear of what would happen if I told people the one thing I never wanted anyone to know about me. And so that is the first time I shared, is on that stage. Did not tell a single person that I knew that I was doing that. So
had you already
had not told my husband yet.
No, had you been able to stop? Okay.
Yes.
So you had been able to stop the behavior.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But
when I had been able to stop, because again, I thought I had cancer, and then I was able to stop, I was actually relieved for several months. Like, great, I'm done, I'm over it. Now I'll never have to tell anyone. I was more relieved I'd never been caught than I was relieved to have stopped. And to me, it felt like now you'll never get caught because you're done with it. It's behind you. Move on with your life. Don't ever say it happened to you.
Okay, I want to go back to that, but let's finish your story. Yeah. So then, okay, so you still hadn't
told my husband, but I knew then, because I did work on the news, that somebody in the audience may have known who I was, that people might start talking, and that eventually someone would tell my husband before I did, and I did not want that to happen.
No, Spokane is like very so small, and just when you think that it's growing, then someone's like, oh yeah, I know. Like there's always 7 degrees of separation.
Yeah. So I knew I had to tell him, but I could not tell him to his face. So I actually sent him an email. And I was the first and the last email I ever sent him so far. I texted him and I said, I have to tell you something. I can't say it to your face, so you need to read your email.
Oh my gosh, he must have been like...
He thought I was going to tell him I wanted a divorce or something. Like
right, or like you're having an affair, or you rung up like a massive credit card debt. Like my husband would be like, return the shoes. What did you do? Like he would totally, would be that, like he would immediately go to like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Too much Amazon.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, so I did, and he ended up responding the most incredible way. He was definitely shocked that I had been able to hide that for so long. And in some ways, I think he kind of felt cheated a little bit. Like, how could you keep something from me for so long? So we had to kind of work through that a little bit. But
and I'm sure he felt like he loves you so much. He was probably really sad that you were struggling with something so hard all those years.
Yeah.
And he hadn't been a part of that.
Yes. He did say, he's like, I wish you just would have told me. Do you not know that I would have done anything in my power to try and help you? And the other thing that I'll add to this is one of the most healing things that happened to me in this whole process was, we had been together. I was 18 when we got together, and I was very insecure. He didn't realize that I was very good at looking confident on the outside, but I was very insecure with my body. And he's a very honest person, and he's a fixer. So he's the guy where if I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel fat, he's like, well, here's a workout plan, because he's a trainer. And so he's the guy, he's not going to, he takes things for what you say, and he gives you a plan to fix your problem.
Men are so good at that. I always have to tell Mark, my husband, I always have to say, take the tool belt off. I don't need you to fix this. I just actually need you to listen.
Yeah. So he, just, and his own struggles, that he was open with me during our relationship, his struggles with pornography, and he's okay that I talk about this, but he's an open book. But I would hear about how he was struggling with pornography and internalize it and think, well, it's my fault. I don't look good enough. And so in many ways in my own head, a lot of our interactions early on in our relationship drove me deeper into my eating disorder. But it's not fair that I blame him, because it's not his fault. I had that problem before I got together with him, but so many things that had happened, I took to be, it's my body's problem. If my body looked better, we wouldn't be having these issues. And so in a lot of ways, I wanted to blame him. And so it was shortly after I had kind of told him, a couple months later, he was joking around with me. He also is a jokester. He thinks he's a comedian sometimes. And I'm a jokester too. So oftentimes I deserve it, because I like to be a comedian with the rest of them. But it was almost my birthday, and he said, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I was thinking, I'm like, I don't really know. And he goes, workout DVDs? Now, he is the sweetest guy. Do not take this story the wrong way. I know that sounds really mean to say, especially after he just found out that I had struggled with bulimia and all this. And he was trying to be funny. And I had never been so I felt so misunderstood, because I just wanted to say, like, how do you not see that comments like these, that things that you've said like this, our entire relationship, have made me feel insecure in my body, right? And so I left for work very upset, and he called me later that day, and after I had ignored a bunch of his calls, I finally answered, and he was like, honey, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't ever want to make you feel insecure. I think you're beautiful. He was saying all the wonderful things, but I said, I wanted to say, I just want to blame you, but I couldn't say those words, because I did not think it was fair to put that on him. But as I'm sitting there and I go, I just want, and he goes, to blame me. He said, you want to blame me. And he said, don't think for a second that I haven't woken up every single day since you've told me, and not been haunted by the things that have happened and the words that I said that probably pushed you further into that. And that was so healing to hear, because it was like he finally got it. Like he understood. And so I think
we just need to hear that. We need to
hear, I just wanted to hear
you need that validation that someone else understands that there's been a struggle, and you need them to just recognize what you've walked through.
Yeah. And he is absolutely amazing. I love him dearly. Yeah. So it's been a really cool journey for both of us. I can't tell you how me sharing this has only brought us closer together and put us both on this much faster track, I think, to just improving so many areas in our life. Because what I tell people, I believed I was unfixable, and that what I was struggling with was not possible to be healed. So when you see what the most impossible thing in your life be healed, when you see a transformation that you did not even think would be possible, it makes you just crave all the healing. You're like, bring it all on, fix all of me. Here's all my issues. Here's everything I'm struggling with. Like,
here's the list.
Yes, here's the list. I just want to be whole. And I think that's what's exciting, is to just, for both of us to recognize the potential when you put your ego and your pride aside, and your masks, when you uncover those masks of perfection or whatever you're trying to,
Right. Yes.
Your life is limitless.
So how were you able to stop? Like, you thought you had cancer, but that it had to have been,
which is not normal.
I've never heard of anyone being able to stop.
I know.
And then, was it just like a mind switch? Do you think that you were?
I listen to Oprah a lot, and she brings on people, and I've heard it from a couple people. They say once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. And I really feel like that's what happened to me. And you'll hear some addicts say, like alcoholics or people that maybe smoked, that they just got to a day when they were done. And I feel like that's what happened. I literally woke up, and I was finally able to taste the value of a life beyond focusing on the shallowness that is worrying about what you look like.
Yeah.
Like, there is so much more to live for. It's like, do you not realize if you're pouring all of your energy into something so small, which that is a very small way of living, to be so consumed with your body. But if you're spending all of that energy, like, imagine the energy that you're taking away from everything else in your life that could be so much more abundant if you just gave it the time, And I mean, gosh, to be able to take my greatest pain and try and use it to pull other people out of theirs, I mean, that is probably the biggest gift that I could ever leave this earth with, I
100%.
think. And it makes something like how you look not seem so important anymore,
There is so much more there than our physical appearance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so how's your relationship with food now? Because for a long time, food was the enemy.
Yeah.
And what you said about guilt associated with eating, or shame associated with eating, with really controlling diets. And I love food. I grew up.
Food. Yes.
I grew up. Our family, food was and is fun.
Yeah.
Like, we, my mom was an excellent cook. Great meals, family, like parties where there was all the yummy things. Like, that was a huge part of our culture. And to me, as an adult, my heart is happiest, I think, when, maybe not happiest, but I love nothing more than getting a group of people together around my table. I've made something good. It's that fellowship, that breaking bread fellowship. I love that so much. I love to feed my family well, and I want to live a life where there isn't shame associated.
That's exactly what you should do
with food. But I think that it's a struggle as we get older and our metabolism slows down. And when I was 36 was the first time in my life I really gained a significant amount of weight, and it just kept going. Like, I gained almost, I don't know, 60 pounds, like, still working on getting some of it off, but it just, all of a sudden, like, the things I had done in the past hadn't worked. I gained all this weight, and so then for the first time too, it was like, I felt horrible about what I was eating and horrible about what I was doing, and I felt like I was doing all the wrong things, and I didn't know how to stop because there were some outside stresses at that time too, other things, and that was where the comfort led.
Right.
It was like I was eating my stress at that point, eating my anxiety, and that felt good until my body. I have osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia, and my body was like, we can't keep up with this weight. You're 5'2", and this heaviness on your joints is like, I was facing so many surgeries at that point, and my doctor said, lose the weight, and I was like, okay. It was a wake-up call to me that one thing I could do to avoid a lot of massive surgeries, and I still might have to have more. I've had a few, is to get this weight off my body. And so I was like, okay. And so I started kind of restructuring. But I think so many people live in a place of, they deprive themselves when it comes to food, and then they like lose it and they just go off the wagon. Like, it's this it's this constant back and forth. And I don't think that's the way God wants us to have that feeling about food.
No. I tell people, look at every other mammal on the planet. A bear can go up to a huckleberry bush or a blackberry bush and not eat every single blackberry that's in sight, right? They eat till they're satisfied and then they move on. And that is exactly how we are designed to function around food. However, we're surrounded by an unnatural amount of food.
Yes.
And
especially
so
here
much of in America.
Yes.
And our society, celebrations, it's all about food. So the problem is that for a lot of people, even growing up as a child, we do instantly have guilt and shame brought into our food from the time we're a couple years old, because you have a mother who's like, don't eat that cookie until you eat your vegetables. Well, what did you just do? You put the vegetables up here and the cookies down here. You just told, we're teaching our children that you're more valuable if you eat this way, and this way makes you bad, right? And so that is inviting guilt and shame into eating. And when you hear talk of intuitive eating, I want people to know, because I did not think it was possible to have this easy relationship with food. It is absolutely possible. The problem is a diet, for example. If you get your mindset right and you're ready to do that diet, initially a diet seems easy when you're ready for it. But the further you go along, the harder the diet gets. And intuitive eating is the opposite. Because we have been programmed to not function as we're naturally made, intuitive eating is extremely difficult at first. But because it's the way that we're wired to be, eventually it becomes this easy relationship. I actually took a course on, you can look her up, Jessie Jean on Instagram. It is incredible. It costs $500, best money I ever spent. And I want every person in America to take this course. It's called the Binge Eating Recovery Course. I hate that it's called that, because I don't think most people don't want that label of like, I'm not a binge eater. Who are you looking at? But
I think everyone's a binge eater at some point in their life, whether they're a binge purger. Yeah. But I mean, who hasn't sat down and eaten like way more popcorn at the movies than they were going to do? Like, who hasn't been like, oh, I'm just going to have a handful of chips. Ooh, what happened?
Right.
We
all have disordered eating patterns.
Yes. This is the Mexican food restaurant chips are the worst for me.
Yeah, you're full by the time your plate comes.
Yes, it's the worst. And I'm like, who ate those chips? Why does my stomach hurt? It's just, there, and it feels okay because we're out having fun. Yes. This is fun. I'm going to eat all these things. Yeah.
And that's the thing. You have to give yourself grace that it is okay every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, it is okay.
And, I tell people, our food is meant, this is a thing that I had never really thought of before, but one of the things that she teaches in this class is your food should be orgasmic. It should be so delicious, because we have a hunger hormone that we need to turn off to feel satisfied. And if you're making yourself live on broccoli and carrots, you're never turning off that hunger hormone. You're going to constantly be fighting back these cravings and stuff. And the other thing that I love that she says and teaches is that stop assigning your power to food. Don't say, oh my gosh, I'm a stress eater. When I get stressed, I eat. Or when I get sad, I have to eat a whole thing of ice cream. She's like, don't give your power away to the food. Don't tell yourself that because you're in this state that therefore you have to go eat that food. She's like, it's very simple. Our brains are wired to move away from pain and towards pleasure. That's it. And so if you have wired your brain that when you're in pain, food is your pleasure, that is what your brain is constantly trying to come up with systems for efficiency, right? Your brain lives off of habits and so that it doesn't have to make decisions. So if that's how you've trained your brain, that's what you will do. And all it takes is a rewiring of that pain to pleasure. You need to find a new pleasure. And her program is incredible at helping people kind of do that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that my relationship with food is perfect, but I don't have guilt anymore. And I do notice, or I would say that when I think back to when I was able to quit cold turkey, I do remember the first few weeks after where I would eat something that normally I would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just ate that. I gotta get rid of that. And I remember just telling myself it's okay. You're okay. It's okay that you just ate that. Don't worry about it. Move on. And that is how we should be. You should never be eating something and then beating yourself up for it for the rest of the day. Right. That you should be able to eat a cookie and move on. And when you get rid of this pedestal that you put vegetables on and the sugars down here, it's if you're trying not to eat the cookie, and then you finally eat the cookie and you hate yourself for it, you usually end up eating like the whole batch of cookies because you're like, well, I'm already here, already messed up, might as well.
Totally, like in for a pinch, in for a pound,
yes.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I've already like thrown myself off my plan for today, so now I just might as well eat all the things, which that's like super. Then you just say, oh, well, I ate this today. Wasn't on my plan. I was going to try to do this, but then I'm just going to move on. Like, like don't go all in. Like, just, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do that pleasure to pain, I think, applies to so many things. Like, where do you turn with your stress, your anxiety? Do you turn to food? Do you turn to alcohol? Do you turn, like, when I am super stressed out, I can get really, like, lazy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if lazy is the right word, but then I'm like, I have so many things to do. I'm just gonna like binge watch something on Netflix because that feels like right. Like and then I feel worse because I haven't addressed any. But it's like I go into this paralyzed mode of like, this is too much for any person to accomplish. I just need to lay here for a minute.
Yes.
And I'm like extreme that way. I'm either really like high productivity, doing all the things, or I'm like, meh.
Yeah.
And I think that my dad was extremely overweight and he had a heart attack at 60, I think it was 65, and died, like a widowmaker heart attack. Gosh. And for me, watching that and watching his health journey too was a huge wake-up call as far as like, this is the one bod I've got, so I want to be as healthy as I can. But I don't ever want it to have an unreasonable place of control in my life.
Right. Well, and I tell people too, intuitive eating is not just saying it's okay to eat whatever, whenever. I mean, it is in that sense. But if you're actually paying attention to your body, you're going to start to notice how foods make you feel.
Right.
And you're not going to be craving cookies all the time just because you've given yourself permission to eat them. You're going to crave the things that make you feel good because you have to tune inward. And I loved hearing this too. Misty Springer is an incredible wellness coach here in Spokane. And she says, the first step in learning to love yourself often starts with food because you have to be willing to listen and to meet the needs of your body. And if you are in this mode of constantly denying yourself your cravings, your desires, constantly beating yourself up for the way that you're eating or not eating, you're not able to love yourself. And so loving yourself often starts with allowing yourself to listen to what your body needs nutritionally. And she has an incredible story of just sharing how for so long she didn't trust her body. She thought someone else had to tell her how many calories to eat and someone else had to tell her what was the best diet to follow. And it was always like, what's the diet that's going to solve all my issues? And really, she just needed to learn to listen to her body.
Well, and I think too, if you're living in a state of like where you're depriving yourself, then you are always thinking about food.
Oh yeah.
Because you're always hungry.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking about when can I eat next? When is that next meal? When is my cheat day? Like when is, whatever. I think it all of a sudden takes this huge place in your life of control.
Yeah. And it's exciting to tell people, if I can get to this place, anybody can get to this place.
Yes.
Because I didn't think it was possible.
Well, and that was a significant, it's a decade, right?
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah.
Like that's a long time to course correct, to pattern shift.
Yeah.
Have you, so Nichole has 3 children.
No, I have 2.
Oh, you have 2?
And a dog. And a husband, so I have 4. I'm just kidding.
Why did you think you had 3?
I don't know.
Maybe I saw you, I don't know.
Yeah, I have 2.
Anyway, okay, so you have 2, and they are, how old are they?
9 and 3.
9 and 3. Oh, you have gap like I do.
I do, yeah.
14 and 9 here. So pretty soon it'll be 15 and 9. They're usually 6 years apart.
Okay.
So have you talked to your daughter about this? You're obviously really open.
I'm
she's
very
to the
open
age
with her,
where she's starting to get some body awareness. Mm-hmm. Okay, how are those conversations?
I am so open and honest with my daughter about everything. I think that's kind of the best way to parent. You need to take the blinders off your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, she came home in 2nd grade and had was telling me about how one girl was trying to teach everyone how to count calories. She came home in first grade saying that they were having competitions to see which girl could suck their stomach in the farthest. So whether or not you realize it, like your kids are being inundated with other children who maybe do have moms at home that are struggling or parents that are struggling with body image. And that's what I tell people, like, what is your child hearing you say? Is your daughter hearing you call yourself fat? Is your daughter hearing you obsess about your food and calories? Because you are setting the most toxic example of what it looks like to love your body and love yourself. It's not just what you say to your child, it's what you speak about yourself, because they listen and they hear what you say.
They do.
So.
And that's something I've been really cautious about, and I probably need to do it better, but as I've lost this weight, a significant amount, I just feel so much better, and that's what I try to talk about. Like, Mommy lost this weight not to look better necessarily, but because I have osteoarthritis, I have fibromyalgia, I have these autoimmune things, and Mommy's body needed to feel better.
Yes.
I needed to feel stronger. I needed to, in order to live longer and be the adult I want for you guys, I needed to do this.
Well, that's so good for them to hear.
It is, but I also, like, I'm not gonna lie, they've heard me say, like, oh, I got to pull these jeans on today, that that is very much how we feel in our clothes, how we feel in our skin. Yeah. And that is important too. And just feeling good and confident where you're at, I think is important. And if you're not, I think if your weight is at such a place where you're not, you can do something about that, but there's healthy ways to do something about that.
And I think that's so perfect. Whether that's what we talk about in our family is there's like strength and good health. We want to be strong. We want a good health. And I think a lot of times people, like, their gym plan doesn't work out because you're there for the wrong reason. Like, if you are there to work out for an external number that you're trying to hit or a size you're trying to fit in, it's gonna be a real struggle. I think you have to recognize the gift that it is to be able to move.
Absolutely.
And to be thankful for that, and to be in the gym because you want to feel, like, that's what's really made a difference for me, I guess. And not just like going to the gym, but loving going to the gym. Is that I love to feel strong, and I don't care if I lose weight. I don't even want to know what I weigh anymore, which is another thing that I love to talk about, I guess, is just the number on a scale. You think back to, I don't know, Little House on the Prairie days. They weren't standing on a scale every day to see what their number was.
Right.
And if I used to weigh myself every single day, and I remember thinking, it was actually as I was taking this course with Jessie Jean, I was like, well, it's okay. I can weigh myself every day because it doesn't affect my self-confidence. It's not like something that's like throwing me into an eating disorder. She's like, no, you don't understand. She's like, it's not just about how the scale is making you feel. It's also about how is the scale changing how you're eating that day. So, and it's so true. When the scale's more, I'm like, oh, I better back off the carbs today. And when the scale's less, I think, oh, I can enjoy another glass of wine, right? And so it's pulling you away from being able to tune inward and listen to what your body needs. And how many people will start a diet and notice, I hit the 20-pound mark. All right, let's loosen up off that diet. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but the number should not be your determining factor. And when your diet or nutrition starts to change, we need to get better at just focusing in on what we feel.
So when my doctor was like, you got to get this weight off your frame, I didn't weigh myself. So it wasn't until the next year I changed the way I was eating. I changed why I was eating.
Yes.
I started looking at, okay, you are eating from these stressors, your anxiety's out of control. Let's get some exercise back in here. From a young, like my earliest struggles with anxiety and depression, the doctors have always said you can control a lot of this through exercise. So through moving your body, endorphins. So I knew that was hugely missing. So when I went back to the doctor the following year for my annual, I have like a lot of doctors, but when I went back to see my general practitioner, she was like, wow, you've lost a good amount of weight this last year. And I was like, really? Okay, how much? Then I wanted to know. And then the following year, she's like, what are you doing? You've lost more. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just exercising a lot. You
use Isogenics.
I use Isogenics. I do use Isogenics. I love Isogenics. It's helped so much. And for me, it became nutrition that my body needed that I didn't have to think about. So it was just safe, good calories, and took care of that. Like whatever else I was trying to put in my mouth to.
Well, and from the start, your why was rooted in like better health.
Yes.
Because how discouraging is it to try so hard for a week at a diet and to not see the scale move? It's so discouraging. And that alone will send some people into, well, forget this, I'm going to grab the potato chips. But like maybe you actually were feeling really good after that week of eating healthy, but you weren't paying attention to it because you were obsessing about that number on a scale. And so I think
so we don't even own a scale in the house. I don't have one, but so it's just when I go see my doctors and they weigh me, I'm like, what? Okay, well, and that's how I kind of keep track of it and know. And I recently posted a picture of like a before and after, just so people could see like that. It's not about the weight. It's about feeling good in our skin, and it's also about taking care of the body God's given us.
Right.
And because mine has some external, or it has some issues with these, I don't know. I always want to, like, is it a disease? It's not a disease. I never know. Osteoarthritis, whatever it is, autoimmune.
Is that an autoimmune
It's
disease?
autoimmune disease, I think, because I have this, for me, being able to actually move, being able to still run, being able to lift weights, being able to, it is a celebration. And feeling strong in my skin is a celebration. And it wasn't, and I just want to do that for as long as I can. I want to feel good for as long as I can, and this is the way I can do it. And yes, Isagenix has been a huge, huge blessing to me in helping my body get the nutrition it needed and taking away that struggle I was having with food. So,
it's a balance. And I don't know, people in our society today, it's a very difficult thing to find that healthy balance with food and good nutrition. But I tell people, I mean, a lot of things, I get excited about why I should eat something. So like when I research why kale is good for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing.
Give me all the kale.
There's a new study out actually that spinach maybe should be added to the list of like anti-doping drugs because there's a chemical in spinach that actually makes you significantly stronger. So Popeye was right the whole time. But that like excites me. I'm like, oh my gosh, spinach makes you stronger. I want to go eat some spinach and then work out. Like,
I put it in my shake every day. I put this handful of like power grains in my shake every day, and I noticed that since I've started doing that, I feel so much better.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go. I tell people, if you think you hate vegetables, go look up what the vegetables can do for your body and then get excited about that. And there's always a way to make a vegetable taste absolutely delicious. You just have to.
Agree.
You just have to
put some olive oil on them and stick them in the oven. It's delicious. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm gonna just look at my questions real quick to make sure we've talked about all of the things. Oh well, so as you talk to your daughter about this, what's her response to your story, and do you think she really comprehends?
I don't know if
Nine is still.
I don't know if she comprehends yet, like the gravity of kind of what it was that I went through, but she understands that being skinny is nothing to be.
Yeah, this is not what we're rewarding.
Yeah. She loves to be strong and to talk about her strength, and she loves to, she wants to be strong, and I love seeing that in her because I remember just only wanting to be skinny. For me, it was nothing about strength. It was like I just wanted to be skinny. And I love that she does not desire that, at least at this point. And that's hopefully the path that we stay on. So
I think one thing you said that I just wanted to like hit back on was you talked about like what a gift it is just to wake up every day. And I believe that so much. I think no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what family you're born into, no matter what level of wealth or poverty or dysfunction, like you still have the gift of life, and you still have the opportunity to make your life what you want it to be. Like, God is still giving you all of the tools. And you just have to claim them. No matter what your circumstances are, no matter what your body looks like, no matter what like physical things you've been dealt, whatever emotional things you've been dealt, whatever, like it is a gift. And I think people forget to look at it like that. That this life, the fact that we woke up.
Right. it's funny. This is probably too much information, but I'm an open book, so here we go. I just had a mammogram yesterday. I'm only 31.
Okay.
So there was kind of a little scare. I haven't heard the results of it yet, but again, it's like things are going to happen in our life that we can't control, that are out of our control. And the story I'm already telling myself is, okay, well, if God's destined me to have to battle breast cancer or some sort of cancer, then it's time to roll up the sleeves and here we go. And it's like, we can't fight so hard against the reality that is our reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you have to be willing to accept your circumstances, because within embracing and accepting those, like embracing and accepting my struggle with an eating disorder and so many other things, like if you're constantly just fighting so hard against denying what is, you're not doing yourself any favor. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but just being able to accept the pain and the struggle that comes into your life, because I think we all need to realize, and actually that was going to be my answer to one of those questions, that our pain and our struggle can teach us something. It doesn't have to be something that we fight to try and deny or act, try to get out of our lives. Yeah.
I think when we do deny them, then that's where the wheels start falling off the bus, honestly. That's where we develop bad patterns. That's where we don't, we're doing all the sidestepping.
Right.
Instead of letting that be a part of our story and working through it.
Right.
Yeah, we develop all the unhealthy habits.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up.
Okay.
So one question, Jen Hatmaker does this on her podcast, and I think it's so cute. I just love what people say. So she asks every guest, what is saving your life right now? I love this question, and I always love what people answer, because some people are like Netflix, popcorn, and some people are like the Psalms, like whatever.
For me, it's Super Soul Conversations with Oprah Winfrey.
Oh yes, amen.
That is
Oprah,
saving my life right now.
Like,
she is amazing. I hope I get to meet that woman someday. She is so inspiring, and I feel like she is a person who is just like the perfect example of what happens when you listen to that gut inside of you, that your intuition that's telling you you're made for more. And you deny the fear, and you deny what people think about you. And you talk about somebody who came from, you want to talk about struggle and nothing and is built, but she's just so wise. And I love her focus on spiritual growth, because I think spiritual growth is something that much of our society wants to pretend like isn't even a thing that you need today. But I really believe we're mind, body, spirit, and you have to feed all three areas, or you're going to feel
there's a disconnect.
Out of alignment, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, tell again, where can the audience find you?
Uncovered with Nichole Mischke on Facebook. I will be releasing my first story of shame in a couple weeks with a local guy here in Spokane who struggled with a brother who committed suicide and then alcoholism himself. So Uncovered with Nichole Mischke on Facebook, and then Nichole Mischke Uncovered on Instagram.
Perfect.
So,
all right, thanks so much for joining
thank
me
you
today.
for having me.
And I think mamas, this is a good conversation to get your teenage daughters to listen to. So we'll be here for 24 hours on Facebook or Instagram, and then forever on Best Next Steps on Facebook. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.